Your union is bad because it makes me pay you a fair wage. But look, thank you for making me all this money that I can go put in politics to encourage you to elect politicians that are not in your own best interest, they're in mine.
Okay, look, you and I have had a lot to say here. Kirsten Alabanatakis, the communications director of the Louisiana Democratic Party, this is your opportunity. What do you got? I mean, all this stuff, gobbledygook that I'm saying anyway. I'm not going to call it for the president here, but I'm
like
saying
Joe Friday,
gobbledygook.
the facts, sir, just the facts.
I think you were.
Go ahead.
I think you were asking for some inspiration and
Inspiration and feet to the fire.
And I think.
I'm not going to interrupt her, but Mike, I know your inspiration. She stands about, 2.5 foot tall?
Yeah.
And God bless, I don't know how a child got to be so beautiful with you as a daddy. But if you need inspiration, pull a picture out your wallet and look at it.
She looked so much like me, we had to cancel our appearance on the Maury Show.
I think Lewis is exactly right, and that was exactly where I was going. Is Mary Landrieu is Mary Mary Landrieu is for the future of this state. She is fighting for equal pay, for equal work for women. She's fighting to invest in higher education. She wants kids to be able to afford to go to college. Bill Cassidy thinks Pell Grant program is full of fraud, while Mary Landrieu's trying to invest more in higher education. She wants to boost the Pell Grant program. She wants to make student loan interest rates stay low or go lower. So if you have a kid and you want him to go to college and you want him to be able to afford it in Louisiana, do you want to vote for somebody who is trying to make college more affordable, or do you want to vote for a guy who's rolling around with Bobby Jindal, who, let us not forget, slashed higher ed in the state by more than any other state?
He slashed tires.
Higher ed.
Oh, well, higher ed.
Higher ed. LSU, UNO. UNO's laying off faculty. LSU has lost faculty. Tuition rates are going up. That's a student tax. Bobby Jindal supports a student tax. Cassidy supports Jindal. That's what we're working with here. And then the inspiration, talking about the Affordable Care Act. I have talked to people who have finally gotten covered under the Affordable Care Act. Good friend in New Orleans, her name's Tierney. She had a pre-existing condition. She was unable to get covered prior to the Affordable Care Act. Now she has coverage for about $100 a month. She's a server. She's somebody that goes out and helps, prepare your food at a fine restaurant in New Orleans, brings that food to your table. Why wouldn't you want those people to have health care? It's a great thing for working people, for the middle class, all the stuff that Lewis talked about. If you're looking for inspiration, there are real stories about people who have finally gotten covered, who couldn't get covered before, and that is what drives me to get up in the morning and do what I do and come here and chat with you.
Okay. Now, before I understand all that, does the Affordable Care Act cover checkups from the neck up?
Mental health care.
Oh, good. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. It has mental health parity. And
that's very important to you, Mike.
That's very important to me.
Well, and honestly, that's something that Cassidy wanted to do when he was in the state legislature. He wanted to require insurers in Louisiana to cover mental health. So it's unclear why now he's against all this stuff that he was for in the state legislature.
I know why.
Well, is it because David Vitter is helping him?
No. It's like any other politician. They're going to take whatever stand they can take to move up to the next office.
Well, and you know what? I don't think that's true of Mary Landrieu, quite frankly. She has taken tough votes. She's done what she thinks is right for Louisiana, no matter who is in the White House, whether it's George Bush, whether it's President Clinton, whether it's President Obama. She is going to do whatever she thinks is best for Louisiana. She doesn't care who's in the White House. And honestly, I think Bill Cassidy is just going to be another rubber stamp for Mitch McConnell. If you like Mitch McConnell, if you like John Boehner, if you like what they've been doing in D.C., go out and vote for Bill Cassidy, but don't be surprised when we get more gridlock, less done for Louisiana.
Hey, like I said, and I think this is, well, I've heard it said that Mary Landrieu, Bill Cassidy has voted 100% of the time with the 1%.
Well, he's voted 100% of the time with Bobby Jindal. If you like that, you're going to love him. But let me tell you something, and I have had although I don't like going to Washington, the privilege of representing working families on issues. I have sat down with Senator Landrieu, and you know, my life would probably be easier if I could just say, Senator, we support this. Would you vote for it? Senator Landrieu says, Lewis, these are my concerns. Does it do this? How does it address that? We go through a process of back and forth, and it's not even automatic. She wants to understand the issues. She demands that you come with the facts, and before she'll give you a yes or no, you have to sit down with the senator and with her staff and go through it line by line. Does this cause this bad thing to happen? One of the few elected officials I've ever dealt with who says, look, is this unintended consequence going to happen, and how do we not make that happen if we're going to do something good for this group of people? To have an and look, I deal with 39 senators and 105 representatives in the legislature, and have dealt with congressmen and senators from the state of Louisiana. I don't know that I've had anybody who was thorough about when it got time to vote, what was in the bill, what did it do, and how is it going to affect the people. I have to give her credit for that. Now, like I said, it's been tough on me. She'll give you a sheet with 20 things and say, we need to look at each one of these items and how is this bill. Like I said, when it was the Venezuelan human rights bill, boy, that sounds nice. I want everybody to have human rights. But to look through the bill and understand the fact that we were going to put Louisiana workers in the unemployment line, take away their paycheck that provided for their children and put food on their table, was not the answer to addressing the human rights problems in Venezuela, and to say, no, I, as a U.S. Senator, am going to stand in the way of you putting our Americans out of work to address an issue in another country. Let's address it, but let's address it in a way that doesn't put our own people at a disadvantage while we do it. That's the senator that I've been out campaigning and voting for.
Yeah. Do you think Lobby gets an interrogation when they go in to meet with Bill Cassidy and Bobby Jindal, or do they just say, what do you want today? I think they don't get that same kind of interrogation.
I want to tell you, I personally know Bill Cassidy. I've had the occasions to talk to him on a lot of occasions. I do appreciate the work he did in the charity hospital. Back then, he also was against Bobby Jindal and made a commercial against him and seemed to really care. My conversation with Cassidy was much more to the point and real about the issues when he was at that place in his life. But somewhere he has gotten to the other side where having those conversations can't help you, Lewis.
Back to the point I made.
Well, Senator, I wanted to tell you about how this affects people. No, I'm already committed on that issue. I don't want to know what it does. I wish, he told a group in Hammond the other day, 100 people maybe, he was pretty sure I wasn't voting for him. Now, why he thought he needed to point me out in the crowd and let people know. He said, but I'm sure Lewis will tell you that I'll listen to him. Well, if you're just going to listen to me, but you're not going to take any of those facts into considerations and understand how it affects the people of the state that you want to represent, listening to me is not going to do a whole lot of good. I'm sorry.
No, you're absolutely on point.
Mike gets me
riled. I mean, ultimately, I don't think the voters can trust Bill Cassidy. He's been one way, he's been the other way, he's been back and forth. Is this somebody that you really want to give a promotion? I can't imagine that.
I'm not promoting Bill Cassidy. I mean, I'm going to tell you that I'll go out and vote for Mary Landrieu today, but I'm not tickled with her, okay, personally.
Kirsten, what Jen Lewis is saying is exactly right. I don't know whether y'all saw it, but Cassidy's running an ad on TV now talking about Mary Landrieu and the fact that she was proud of her voting record with the president. She said that in that ad they ran a clip saying, okay, if I didn't vote the way you wanted, then vote me out. Well, that shows commitment. That shows no matter what they're saying about her, she's willing to stand on her record. And that's the kind of person we need to vote for.
Well, I tell you, the thing that really... Go ahead.
That is a very true statement. Those are true term limits. They're called elections. And I wish Bill Cassidy would stand up and say, you know what? I have a voting record. You're not going to like it because he sure has run from it. He hadn't been proud of his voting record. If you don't like his voting record, you sure ought not be voting for him Because I promise you this, if you get up and go to work every day, if you got to bring a ham sandwich to work so you got something to eat, if you got to worry about child care, if you got to worry about your children being able to get a Pell Grant or a student loan at a low interest rate, you don't want to see Bill Cassidy's voting record.
The thing that I admire now about her is the uphill battle that she's fighting, and a lot of candidates would have threw in the towel. And it's happened before in this state. And we won't go into the candidates, but I called them and gave them a piece of my mind after people had worked hard for them, went out, put signs up, and they said, well, you know what? It's not looking too good in the runoff. Let me just throw in the towel. One thing I can say, she's got cojones, okay? And I appreciate and respect that.
And she's done this 2 times before in runoffs. Woody Jenkins race, the Susie Hike Terrell race. Everybody said, never mind. She won both times. So I think people are really, unfortunately, they discount Mary Landrieu every time. And we encourage them to keep discounting her because we're going to go ahead. We're going to get people out to the polls today. Again, if you need to find your polling place, it's gonnavote.com, GONNAVOTE.com, or call the office, 225-336-4155. We will help you find where your polling place is, and you can go out and cast a ballot. It is your right as a citizen. You need to exercise that right. If you are not at the table, you are on the menu, so everyone needs to go and make their voices heard today.
Well, let's get Ernest Stevens in here. Big E, what's on your mind, E, besides that Jaguar hat you got on your head today?
That's what's on my mind, Mike. You know, that game starts at 3 o'clock in Houston. Folks, you still have time to stop and vote before you leave for Houston.
Now, you know the thing that I really liked? I was reading in the paper, and it's a championship game.
SWAC championship.
Right. It's a SWAC championship game, and a working man or woman can at $20 to $60 a ticket can afford to take their family to that game. That's one thing I respected. Other than Dallas Stadium, which I have information, is $500 a ticket, and it costs $28 for a hot dog and $38 if you want chili on that hot dog, and they call it a family hot dog. Good for 4 people.
Well, that's why we're playing in Houston, Mike. We don't want to go to Dallas. But once again, we can't stress how important this election is. You know, folks said last week or 2 weeks ago, get out and early vote. Get out and early vote. We encourage you to get out and early vote. Well, we're encouraging you today to get out and vote. There is no other chance. Today is the day. If you're satisfied with what goes on and what's happening and where the state is going, then you don't do anything. If you want to see this state change, you want to see it change for the better, you want to see progressive leadership, then you get out and vote. We've got 2 candidates that we're stressing that you vote for in the 6th Congressional District, Edwin Edwards, and in the U.S. Senate, Mary Landrieu. More important, we want you to get out and exercise your right to vote.
You know, I've got a thing that, you know, I've got my problems with Edwin Edwards also. He's been on this show a couple of times. But if you look at it, the other guy, Graves, the thing that really lost, besides some issues, but it's like in World War II when they jumped out of an airplane, they would scream, Geronimo! And it seems like these Republicans down here, they want to scream, repeal Obamacare, when they jump out there. And anybody that pays any kind of attention knows that whether you like Obamacare, Affordable Care Act, as Louis Wren calls it, as its name, proper name,
Well, I do
you
want to
can't
remind
repeal
you
it.
that-
You can't repeal it.
that we have the Affordable Care Act not because President Obama said that's going to be the law. The Affordable Care Act was passed by the U.S. Congress by
Right.
a majority of the votes of 435 representatives, 100 senators elected in their own states, representing their states.
59 votes passed in the Senate.
Who looked at the bill and said, this is good for the people I represent. It's going to bring health care to them. It is a law that was passed by the U.S. Congress.
That's true.
And upheld by the U.S. Supreme Court.
And, yeah, the only Republican that ever voted for it was Chief Justice John Roberts.
But I want to tell you something. You were talking about Edwin Edwards.
He's got the best plan for the Affordable Care Act.
He has
The
a
most
very
sensible plan.
colorful past. But of all the people who have run for public office, tell me one who was more open to talking about his record and his past. He has not hid about anything.
He don't have
I
any
seen
bones in
him
the closet.
Who'd be the first
that I
one to
know of.
say, they're going to tell you I went to jail. I'm here to tell you I went to jail. But this is what I've done for you when I was in elected office. He's been as bold as to say, if you like the way I governed, vote for me. If you don't like the way I governed, then you shouldn't vote for me. But there's not a candidate running for any public office that I've ever seen who was so willing to accept, this is what I've done in my life. I'm not hiding from it. I'm not keeping any secrets. You look at Garrett Graves, he ran a whole campaign, and 99% of the people never knew who he worked for. He hid from the fact that he was part of Bobby Jindal administration for the last 6 years. He never said it in public. He never said it on a commercial.
That's a good thing to hide from, really. I mean,
yeah, but it's not very honest to the people that you're asking to vote for.
Well, if people don't ask the question, you don't have to answer the question, right? I mean, no. If no one asks him, I've seen it written in news stories, but that's something that I wouldn't be very proud of either.
Mike, I've been in a lot of places where,
I mean, maybe he
being
needed the
someone
money.
who represents working men and women, and being someone who represents a union was probably not the most popular thing to be in the room I was in. But the day that I'm ashamed to tell somebody who I work for and who I represent, I need to either quit my job or start hanging out in a different room.
Well, you're not a politico. Politico will work for
I get
anybody, do anything.
I get elected.
Oh, yeah, you
I
get
get
elected. You got elected.
But I never
Big
stand in
time.
front of the people who I ask to vote for me and tell them things that are made up, things that are irrelevant to their life. I'll tell them, this is what I stand for. This is what I'm willing to do for you. And if that's not what you need to look someplace else. I understand what it takes to get elected. But I also know that I will not sell what I morally believe in my heart is right for my fellow human beings to get that job. And that's the same thing I think elected people who are going to Congress, the House, the Senate, the legislature ought to do. You ought to say, this is my moral compass. These are the lines I will not cross. This is what I believe in. I'll represent you to the point that if there's something that's past my moral compass, I will walk out of the door and let you get somebody else. That's the kind of honesty we need in people who are running for public office.
Which we don't have. We really don't.
You're doing something. I can
Go ahead, name me some.
Karen Carter Peterson.
I like Patricia.
Payne Smith.
Terry
Patricia.
Landry,
Right.
Sam
James.
Jones, John Bell Edwards.
John
They are people who are elected, who don't mind.
Give me a couple of Republicans that are.
What's his name? Havard? Kenny Havard.
Okay.
Rogers Pope. Sherman Mack. Those.
How about Bo Higginbotham?
I think Bo Higginbotham as a judge, really party affiliation. I don't think that there's going to be a problem having a Bo Higginbotham will look at the facts of a case and be fair.
Now, my new hero is Don Craven Sr. He was on this show, and I'd like to have him as a co-host every week. We'll dump Neil.
I will tell you, and I have dealt with Don Cravens for 18 years, and he is one of the most sincere men of principle.
He's a
And
real
principle comes
classic Democrat.
He is a real classic human being,
Right.
who believes in doing what's best for his fellow human beings.
Right.
I have never seen a man so frustrated to try and provide opportunities for young people when some of them didn't want them. But he look, I've dealt with him as a senator. I dealt with him when he ran for Congress. I dealt with him as the mayor. One of his greatest challenges is to bring opportunities to the people of his community. One of the things that frustrated him most is that the young people of his community who didn't want the opportunities. But with your own home local, I have sat down with Cravens, with the technical college, with the Workforce Investment Board to say, how do we get the young people in Opelousas, Louisiana, to get the training they need at home to have an opportunity to participate in this boom, whether it's in Baton Rouge or Lake Charles. He's worked with local companies to try and provide bus transportation that we can get the young people trained in the skills they need and then have a way to go to where the work is going to be and participate. You know, that's an elected official. That's not going to enhance Don Craven's pocket. Don Craven's run for mayor for one more term, so it's not going to affect his future elections after that. That's about an elected official who cares about the people that he represents.
Okay. Jump in there, somebody. Ernest, Kirsten?
Well, I think the stuff you were talking about with Governor Jindal is interesting because I don't know if you all are aware, but Jindal is on this election day. He has three major candidates that he has endorsed: Bill Cassidy, Ralph Abraham up in the 5th District, who's running against Mayor Jamie Mayo, and Garrett Graves, his acolyte, his former employee and staffer.
It's like the kiss of death,
running
right?
Against Governor Edwards. And Jindal thinks these elections are so important and his input is so valuable. Guess where Bobby Jindal is today?
Well, that's what I'm saying.
He's not in Louisiana.
No, he's not here.
I don't know whether David Vitter bought
He's
him a plane
rarely
ticket
here.
and sent him somewhere else or what happened there, but he is the kiss of death. But make no mistake, Jindal is on the ballot today. If you like what Jindal has done, then go out and vote for his three flunkies: Ralph Abraham, Bill Cassidy, and Garrett Graves.
I didn't think David Vitter would jump in bed with the likes of a Bobby Jindal.
I don't know what David Vitter is going to do in bed, but what I can say is their policies are exactly the same.
I think it's public record what David Vitter does in bed.
Oh, well, I didn't want. Now you see, you guys have nasty minds.
No, it's fact. I mean, it's widely reported. I didn't make it up. 1-900. I'm pretty sure that Bobby Jindal is the first governor of the state of Louisiana who spends so much time in other places that he has to have a GPS to find the governor's mansion.
Hey, I need one to find Opelousas.
But you're not the governor.
No.
But Mike, the bottom line is, those folks that are running on the Republican side, they aren't running against Mayor Landry. They're not running against Edwin Edwards. They're running against President Obama.
All of them.
If you ask Congressman Cassidy, what's your plan? On
97%.
any subject.
Repeal Obamacare.
Repeal Obamacare. That's all they talk about.
It's jumping out of a plane.
The president doesn't
Geronimo.
have 2 years on his term. The Senate term is 6 years. So, I mean, what's the big deal about repealing Obamacare?
You can't do it.
To talk about.
You can't do it. Any rational person
and they know
knows
that they can't do it. Here's the dirty little secret. They're going to move forward with some sort of legislation trying to chasten the president on immigration. They're going to try to do things like a lawsuit. They know they can't win, and
tax on medical devices also.
They have half measures. They know that they can't do it. They're out there spinning all of their base up. This is all an exercise to stir up their base. They know what they can do and what they can't. And they have these private conversations. And honestly, I feel bad for the Republican Party. They have a lot of internal problems.
You feel bad for them?
Look, Roger
Did you
Miller
check the
and Jason
results
Dory.
last month?
No, I feel bad for these guys. Next year, they're going to be in a world of hurt because guess what? The sniping between all
the big H woman rolls in.
I'm sorry?
The big H woman, Hillary,
Oh,
rolls in.
Well, I'm talking about next year here. Jay Darden
yeah.
and David Vitter are already taking shots at one another, and it's not even, the election isn't even over. So I can't wait for next year. I think it'll be very fun to see the Republicans turning on one another in classic Republican fashion. So, I think what Lewis and Ernest have been saying is exactly on point. We got to vote for the future of this state. and we got to move it forward.
Then what do you got to do to get the vote out?
Well, let me
What do you got to do to get your vote
point
out?
out something to those folks who listen.
I'm going to vote.
How important it is. Half or more of the state budget is federal dollars.
Exactly.
Over half of the services that are provided in the state of Louisiana are paid for with federal dollars that come from Washington. Your tax dollars sent up there to come back home. Now, you've had a senator for 18 years who's fought hard to bring them back home, who's fought hard to keep hurricane protection, has fought hard to rebuild after hurricanes, who has fought hard to redo the coast afterwards. But what you get from your state government, over half of it is paid for. Now, next week, next month, a year from now, because the first election that Mary Landry won, she won by less than 2 votes in each precinct.
5,000 votes.
And I'm going to warn you that a Republican majority in Congress without a voice for you is not going to do what's good for you. Do you want to look a year from now, 2 years from now, and go, man, if I'd have just done a little more, if I'd have shown up and brought one person from my family, we'd have won this precinct. If I'd have got my cousin in Monroe to show up to vote, we were so close if we just did a little more. There's nothing worse than waking up the day after the election and went, you know what, I should have spent one more day. I should have made a few more phone calls. I should have made sure I did my responsibility as a citizen of the United States. We want people to be treated equal and be treated like citizens. Today's the day that you need to act like citizens, and you need not only to understand. I told somebody the other night, this is the greatest place in the world. We have what people across the world envy. That's a right to vote and a voice in our own governing. But if you don't show up, you gave that up voluntarily after so many people have fought so hard for every person in this country and in this state to be able to participate in democracy. And you give it to them if you stay at home. That's how important it is, and that's why you ought to be encouraged to go out and vote today.
You know, Mike, we're talking about the future of the state and our country, but right here in East Baton Rouge Parish, our kids' future's at stake. We've got some school board races that it's very important that we get out and vote on. We've got some folks putting money in those school board races that are only looking after their own interests. They don't care about the future of our kids. So remember, in District 5, we've got a runoff, and also I think it's District 1. District 1. District 1.
Let's see, District 1, the Greater Baton Rouge AFL-CIO, which you're the president of, right?
Right.
Endorsed Jennifer
Andrews.
And District 5 endorsed Jerry Arbor.
And these are folks that have been around, have worked with our kids, and really want to make a difference for them. They're not looking at taking the money from the Lane Grisbys of the world and saying, okay, this is what Lane Grisby wants, so this is what the chamber wants.
Now, let me make a point. Do you know who Lane Grigsby is teamed with on this?
The Chamber of Commerce.
Maybe so. But do you know who else that's bigger than that Chamber of Commerce, the Louisiana State Chamber of Commerce?
Who is it?
Michael Bloomberg. Liberal as you can get. Okay? I don't understand this. Maybe you guys could explain it to us.
I just heard that a week or two ago. I didn't realize how involved he was until
Mike Bloomberg, the former mayor of New York City, gay marriage, anti-gun, charter schools. His big deal.
But Mike,
Boom!
here's what we need to understand about public education. The Constitution of the state of Louisiana says that every child should have the opportunity to have a quality public education.
And I agree with that.
But when you allow schools to cherry pick children, and you know, it's amazing. Those are the same kind of folks who will tell you every day. And look, I saw every candidate who ran against Edwin there was talking about they want smaller government. Get rid of the government. Get rid of the government. And then they were asking
Another
about flood
battle
protection, and they were all for the federal government subsidizing the flood protection program. You can't take and segregate children and give them to people with a profit motive who want to now put their hand in the public cookie jar and throw the rest of them under the bus and say, we're not going to do those children.
Oh, I agree.
You often wonder, hey, is there a group of people
What do you do
here
with
who
them?
want to ensure that all of our children don't get a good education so that they can generate a cheap workforce? People who work cheap?
You know, when I walked into my first AA meeting, Alcoholics Anonymous, they told me, if you really want to get sober, we can help you. If someone really don't want to get educated, how do you educate them?
Well, it's not so much whether you educate them, it's whether you give them the opportunity.
Opportunities should be there, no doubt.
I got a message for the Tea Party. When it comes to education of the children in this community, you are going to pay a bill. You get to decide which bill. Your first choice is to fund public education, make sure it's there for every child. If you don't do that, then you will fund a prison system that will incarcerate them for a longer period of time than the education system at a higher cost. If you look, this is a state that incarcerates more people, particularly African American males, and most of those people are the people that we did not succeed in the education system. You go there, the majority of people do not have a high school diploma. They were dropped out of school. Some reason we didn't provide a system that got to them and got them the education that they could have the hope and the opportunity to participate in the economics of this country. You're going to pay for your children one way or another. You can pay for education or you can pay for incarceration. You're going to get the bill one way or another. Why don't we go ahead and do what's right and make sure that we have a public education system that has the resources it needs, that can pay qualified teachers, that can offer these children an opportunity. We are going to have 60 to 80,000 jobs just in the construction industry in the next 2 years within this state. We need to be training our young people so that they've got the academic education they need, that we can train them with the skills. Everybody will win.
Man, I got to say, this is the most fun I've had doing this show since I've come here. Kirsten, Alabama Talkers, we got a few minutes. Go ahead, give us your best spiel here.
Well, again, like we've been talking about the entire show, is there is a clear contrast between Mary Landrieu, what she stands for, what she's fighting for, and what Bill Cassidy stands up and fights for. Mary Landrieu has Louisiana values. She wants to make sure that people who work 40 hours a week are paid a fair minimum wage. Bill Cassidy does not. Mary Landrieu wants to make sure that women who are doing the same job as a man are paid equally. Bill Cassidy does not believe in that. Mary Landrieu wants fairness in the workplace. She wants to expand access to affordable health care. Bill Cassidy does not. It's very clear where these two folks are on the issues. And honestly, if you look at where the voters are, they're with us. They're with Mary Landrieu. The exit poll after the November 4th election showed that the majority of Louisianians support raising the minimum wage. Mary Landrieu voted for it. She wants to make sure people can earn a fair living wage. Bill Cassidy voted against it. So I think the issues are clear here. There's a sometimes the two candidates look exactly alike, and maybe you would throw up your hands and not vote that day. We don't have that here today. The candidates could not be more different, and they could not be more different on issues that affect working people. Bill Cassidy's with Koch brothers. Mary Landrieu is with Louisianians. You need to go out and vote today. The polls are open until 8 p.m. Take your photo ID. If you do not have photo ID or you forget to bring it, ask to sign an affidavit. That's very important. Again, if you have a photo ID, please bring that. It's a signed photo ID. Bring that to the polls. If you do not have one, ask to sign an affidavit. You can cast a regular ballot. You do not have to cast a provisional ballot. And please check your polling place before you go out. If you go to the polls and they don't have you on the rolls, they should look you up and try to find out where you're registered. But it's much easier if you look yourself up online, find out where your polling place, and go there. If you're in line by 8 p.m., you will be permitted to cast a ballot. And really, this is a great opportunity. It's a Saturday election. If folks have off, maybe they're heading over to Houston to go to the SWAC championship game. Swing by your polling place. First thing, it should take 2 minutes. Again, take your signed photo ID and cast a ballot for Senator Mary Landrieu for the future of this state.
And Mike, before we leave today, I want to compliment Kristen, Karen Carter Peterson, Stephen. They have really brought the Democratic Party to a place where they are making those people running for office talk about the relevant issues. It's not the 30-second ads. They've energized the people in this community that the issues matter when you're talking about elections. I've seen more activity from them. You'll see people on the streets, see people out working, trying to encourage people to vote today, honk the horn and give them a thumbs up. Thank y'all for all you've done at the party. It's so great to see y'all alive and vibrant.
We got to go. This is Baton Rouge Labor Radio. We're on WTQT 106.1 LPFM. You can catch a rebroadcast of the most fun I've had since I've been doing this show. On Facebook, that's Baton Rouge Labor Radio, or you can go to my Facebook, Michael D. Day, and read all that left-wing propaganda I stick on there. Anyway, once again, this is Baton Rouge Labor Radio. Neil Paul Miller will be in next week. And if you work for free, you'll always have a job. Live better, work union. Have a nice day.